All right, I had a question about consumer surplus. And if you remember back when we first started talking about markets and we talked about how exchange creates, um, well, we use the word wealth or additional value, right? We engage in exchange when we expect that we are going to be better off. Both parties are going to be better off than they were before. Um, there's an increase of satisfaction or utility. So when we talk about consumer surplus, it is really the theory behind um, oh, the surplus utility that is created when exchange takes place. So to kind of explain that, if you look at the question one and you've got this demand curve and it's for what is it, shirts? Read here, t-shirts. So you look at this demand curve, and at a price of $25, okay, at a price of $25, you have 1,000, excuse me, 1,000 shirts that are going to be sold. But if you think about it this way, that this 1,000th customer, and let's assume each individual buys one shirt. It could be one customer buying 5 or whatever, but let's just assume that 1,000 shirts are sold, and these are 1,000 different customers. The 1,000th T-shirt is going to be bought by a person who paid exactly what the shirt was worth. Okay, $25 a shirt was going for, and this person valued, right, the 1,000th person valued that shirt at exactly $25. Now, the 1,001 shirt and anything after that, okay, at a price of 25, okay, you can see now if that price continues to extend on here, okay, that price level, right, these consumers, 1,000, 1,001, and on and on and on and on, value, because our demand curve is downward sloping, don't value shirts at that price. So let's say this is 1,200, and they come up in the 1,200th person. You hit the demand curve and you come over that price as well. Let's just say it's 20. Okay, 20 values that T-shirt at $20. So at a price of 25, they're not going to buy it. Now, the very first person, the very first shirt, okay, nobody, whatever this price is, let's say it's $40. You have 0 consumers who value a shirt at $40, way up here. There would be no demand. No one's buying a shirt at $40. But just below 40, we'll say at $39.99, okay, you have that first shirt. Someone is saying, all right, 40 is my limit, but I'm willing to pay $39.99. That's kind of what this demand curve reads. As you go down, right, these consumers value the shirt less and less and less and less. So if the price is $25, any value, okay, so this first person paid 25, but was willing to pay, we'll just say 40. Okay, so they received a surplus value of $15. That's the difference between the price they paid, 25, and what they were willing to pay. That's what we call consumer surplus. It's the difference between what consumers are willing to pay and what they actually pay. This individual, the 1,000th individual, the 1,000th T-shirt, there is no consumer surplus. They paid exactly what they were willing to pay. At 500, okay, the 500th consumer, okay, paid $25, but was willing to pay $30. So they received a surplus value of $5. Okay, that's what we're talking about, consumer surplus and how it's created. So how we're going to end up calculating that down the road here is really the area of the triangle, okay, that's above price. So here's our price level, $25 is our price level, and here's the demand curve. So anything below the demand curve and above price, so that's this triangle right here, is what we would consider surplus value. So if we were to calculate this, and I'll just draw it up real quick, let's make that 40 as that top spot, and then we had 30 and 25, and then we had our demand curve, and at 25, help me remember, 1,000. Yep, so there's 1,000, and at 30, 500. Okay, so if we take this in this area of a triangle, so we've got from 25, go here, from 25 up to 40 is 15. Okay, $15, and our base, okay, 0 all the way to up to 1,000 times 1,000. Okay, and basic math tells us when we're calculating area, okay, area of a square, base times height, area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So 15 times 1,000, we got so in this market situation here, we have a situation where all of the consumers, number 1 through 1,000, had a total consumer surplus of $7,500 of value. So through this exchange, $7,500. I hope that kind of helps kind of understand what consumer surplus is. And I'll get into the questions here a little bit more individually as we go on. But so the basic, anybody where less than the price. Well, let me see. One of the questions was, with diminishing margin utility or consumer derived. Yes, with diminishing margin, are consumers deriving any consumer surplus if the price is $25 per shirt? Yes, that's what we just did, right? We just figured out, yeah, consumers are generating $7,500 of consumer surplus. Okay. Compared to the price of 30 and 25, what can you say about the marginal valuation consumers place on the 307? Well, you can look at consumers, right? Any consumer less than 1,000, right, go in this direction, will value a t-shirt at more than $25. Anybody less than 500 is going to value it at more than $30. Anybody greater than 1,000 is going to value it at less than $25. So you can kind of see that demand curve is really a marginal benefit curve. I mean, you could essentially call it a marginal benefit. This is how much benefit that they are seeing. This 1,000th customer sees $25 of benefit of utility at for that t-shirt. The first one, right, we said was 40, and I'm just making that up, but sees $40 of benefit. So this is kind of a marginal valuation or marginal benefit curve. Use a market demand curve to illustrate the change in consumer surplus if the price drops from 30 to 25. Well, going from there, you could calculate, right? Here's the difference. Here, if the price is $30, what's our consumer surplus? You've got an increase, right, of, we're going from, let's say, here. This would have been our old consumer surplus. Now we're going to a situation where we're dropping in price, and all of this now becomes consumer surplus. So to answer that question, you got to figure out what is the area of these shaded regions. So you can figure out the area of this square pretty easy, base times height, and then you can figure out the area of this triangle, right? 1/2 base times height. So that would help you answer that question there. All right, I'm going to stop this one, and then I'll address some of the other ones in another video.